We have a few minutes here where we can take some of your questions that have continued to come in during the show. So I'm going to take this question from Julie. Julie asks, how do you carve time for yourself during the year? Oh, great question. People who know me well will know that I continue to struggle with this question. So I have to say this. At different points in my career, I've managed this differently. I would probably say I'm in the third big phase of my career in terms of giving myself my own space and my own time. The first part of my career, I didn't do it well at all. And it was okay. I had the time to completely dive in. I felt so overwhelmed and energized by the work that I wanted to dive into it. And then I started to have babies, and they kind of demand that you create some boundaries. Now I have a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And so that changes things, right? And for a while, I tried to maintain both of those ways of living, right? So pre-babies, all of that time and all of that work, and then post-baby just meant I was doing all of that work at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it didn't take long for that to take a toll. And so what I've learned how to do is I've learned how to work smarter. And sometimes this is tough, right? Sometimes this means I don't eat lunch with my colleagues because I really do need that 22 minutes to respond to a student paper or to respond to an email or to work with a student. And I would say that now I'm in this kind of third wave where I have learned that the more time I give to myself, the more energy I actually have to give to my classroom. One of my teacher heroes, Parker Palmer, says that we teach who we are. And I think that's really true. I have this Catholic guilt thing. And so it's really easy for me to feel guilty about taking time for myself. But like I said, I've learned that I just have to do it. And I've also learned that I can bring those experiences into the classroom. And it's been a good shift. So it's something that I've had to be deliberate about. I think it's something we all have to be really, really deliberate about as well. We have another question that came in from Mary. Mary writes, I believe that we all want what is best for students. But what does that look like to a classroom teacher? What does that look like to a building administrator? Wow, that's a wonderful question and tough. Ideally, it looks the same, right? Ideally, what looks like learning to a teacher is also what looks like learning to an administrator. I would say this. In those spaces where there is a difference between what it looks like for teachers and what it looks like for administrators, I've had to realize that sometimes my classroom is bigger than the students in front of me, right? The classroom is bigger than the kids in front of me. And the more deliberate I can be about the decisions I'm making in the classroom, the more I'm able to help people outside of the classroom learn what's going on. So that means I reflect, right? And I write about what we do, and I talk about what we do. And if it's an administrator who maybe has a different set of expectations, I invite conversations, right? Not defensive conversations, but invite conversations. Invite them to come in and observe the classroom when it's not part of my evaluation. And then I just start talking, right? Then just start talking about why I did this and why the kid did that and what I saw and what I learned. The more we can articulate what learning looks like, I think the more powerful an experience we are able to give to our students. And I guess to make sure that I actually answer the question, what does it look like? I think it looks messy. That's what I think. I always get a little creeped out when I see pictures of classrooms, or I'm in my own classroom or some other classroom where it's just a little robotic, right? Where everything looks really, really measured, because I think, well, there's no room for error here. And when there's no room for error, I'm not sure that there's any room for learning. Like real learning, right? Like the kind that you carry on after that class is over. So I think it should look messy. Do we have another question maybe coming in? All right, this is a question from Lindsay. She asks about tips for moving past a rough year. Well, I can absolutely speak to this. I have had many rough years. I'm getting ready to start my 19th year of teaching, and there definitely have been rough years. I remember one very, very vividly, and I knew that it had been a rough year, but I didn't realize the impact of it until the very end. At the end of every year, I go around to my seniors, and on the last day of class, I tell them something I'm going to miss about them. And it's actually this wonderful, it's one of my favorite classes to prep for, right? And in some ways I prep for it all year long, where I'm making little notes about kids and things like that. And I sat down to get ready to do that this particular year, and I realized it was hard. I realized that I did not know as much about my students as I usually did. And I thought back to why that was. And I realized that what had been going on during that year that was trying, which was, you know, we had some management issues, we had difficult, you know, we had students who were in really difficult situations. And frankly, my head was just in a different place. I was focusing a lot on curriculum. I was focusing a lot on standards, and I wasn't paying close enough attention to the human beings in front of me. And so moving past that, first of all, takes forgiveness. So moving on past a rough year, you have to forgive yourself. And you know, my Angelo, you know, she would always say, we do the best we can. So I think, you know, excuse me, we do the best we can when we can, or I'm paraphrasing there, but it's this idea that we do carry on. The other thing that I would say that I learned about rough years was that I never would have a year that was quite like that again, right? So it didn't mean I didn't, so I've had versions of difficult years, but after I got through one rough one, I was equipped with a new set of understanding and wisdom and experiences about how to handle those trials, how to handle the things that you just don't know until they're right in front of you. And so I was able to move past that. So forgiveness, you need to forgive yourself. You need to go back and think about what you did do well, because you did things well. They might be hidden from your consciousness right now, but you did things well. There is a student, there is a project, there is a teacher, there is a parent, there is a story there that you impacted, and you deserve to know what that is. And then you need to take care of yourself, right? So you take care of yourself. That's what this summertime is for, to rejuvenate, to do whatever it is that fills you up. And then to start over. I mean, that's what we get to do, right? This is one of the wonderful things about this work. We get to start over, and I think that's really fantastic. And actually, as I'm talking, I'm seeing all of these amazing ideas from people who are tuning in the comments. So Lindsay, I hope that you are able to listen and take some of this fantastic advice from this community who is absolutely behind you and here to buoy you as you get ready for this next year. We have one question left, and this is a question about encouraging all subject areas to engage in literacy with their students. And I have to say, I kind of like ending with this one because it is really about all of us. And so often when I think about classrooms, whether I'm in preschool classrooms or university classrooms, whether it's an art classroom, a history classroom, no matter, a math classroom, no matter what it is, literacy is at the core of it. And As teachers, I think we have to be of our discipline first, right? So we have to be artists before we are art teachers. We have to be mathematicians before we're math teachers. We have to be historians before we're government teachers or social studies teachers, right? And so I think one way to get people to embrace this is to get them to see the literacy of their own discipline, and then to really think about how that is the core of all of the work that we do. We are coming to a close tonight. I promise that I will archive all of the amazing questions that have been coming through in this comment section and hopefully get to those in upcoming columns and hopefully another upcoming live broadcast. But as we wrap up this inaugural Ask Sarah Live, I just really want to thank you for tuning in, for giving up a summer evening, and really for supporting this work. You will be able to catch transcripts of portions of the show and also the video in the Sunday blog, which you can find at sarahbrownwesling.com. As always, an extra special thank you to Teacher for their partnership, which really has made this event possible. I have to end by saying that I frequently tell my students a good question is always better than a good answer. So keep those questions coming. You can submit questions to us as always via Facebook, Twitter, or at the Ask Sarah tab on my webpage, which you can find at sarahbrownwesling.com. So until next time, teach openly and be well.